every handbag. For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good evening to you. It's Monday the 10th of March and this is Farage with me, Martin Daubney. In the past hour, Nigel Farage has sensationally broken his silence on the ongoing Reform civil war, saying he defends his position to suspend Rupert Lowe from the Reform Party. The Reform UK leader details Lowe's alleged behavioural problems. You'll not want to miss it. I'll be joined in the studio by Reform's former spin doctor and one of the men who knows both of them best. That's coming up shortly. Plus, we have a major TV exclusive on the show tonight. I'll be revealing some never-before-seen data revealing the astonishing scale of the migrant crime crisis gripping the United Kingdom. You'll not believe which nationalities are topping our World League of Crime Shame. And a heartbroken family is calling on GB News viewers to help get their beloved dog, Ozzy, look at it, look, beautiful dog, get it back to safety after he was stolen by machete-wielding robbers. I'll be speaking to the family later on in the show. Let's try and get that dog back to the family. Now, all of that to come, an amazing show ahead. But first, here's your headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Martin, thank you. It's just gone 7 o'clock. These are your headlines. Mike Amesbury is standing down as an MP, triggering a massive by-election in Runcorn and Helsby. The disgraced Labour MP has told the BBC he will step aside at the earliest opportunity after he was given a suspended 10-week prison sentence for punching a man in the street. His resignation will trigger the first by-election of Sir Keir Starmer's premiership in a seat in which Reform UK came second in last July's general election. It comes as senior members of Reform UK are locked in a bitter row, with one of its MPs being suspended from the party. The Reform MP for Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowe, was suspended over alleged threats of physical violence towards the party's chairman and bullying allegations towards staff, claims Mr Lowe denies. In response, Mr Lowe said the party leadership had a complete inability to accept even the most mild constructive criticism without such a malicious reaction, suggesting ulterior motives for him losing the whip. But Reform Party leader Nigel Farage has tonight spoken out, assuring that that is not the case.
I don't fall out with anybody, they fall out with me. There has been a behavioural problem for some months. Outbursts, anger, that kind of thing. Frankly, I've tried to put it all to the back of my mind. We've all tried to put it to the back of our minds. And as I say, I'm not prejudging anything on these allegations of a bullying culture going on in his offices. But I put it to you, any party who had a senior figure that was facing those accusations would have to act in some way.
In other news, jet fuel is spilling into the North Sea after an oil tanker and a cargo ship carrying toxic chemicals collided near Hull, with reports of a massive fireball being seen. The US-flagged Stena Immaculate tanker, which was carrying fuel for the US government, appears to have been hit while at anchor by the Portuguese-flagged container Salong. The cargo ship was carrying 15 containers of the highly toxic compound sodium cyanide. That's according to Reuters news agency. One person is in hospital, while the other 36 people from both crews are safe and accounted for. That's according to local MP Graham Stewart. Meanwhile, Greenpeace UK said it was too early to know the extent of any environmental damage as the jet fuel continues spilling into the sea. And the King attended the annual Commonwealth Day event at Westminster Abbey with the Queen, Prince and Princess of Wales, as well as the Prime Minister and a 2,000-strong congregation. In his Commonwealth Day message, the King said restoring the disrupted harmony of our entire planet is the most important task facing humanity. Outside was a large protest by anti-monarchy group Republic, who held up "Not My King" and "Down with the Crown" placards from an area across from the Abbey. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Martin.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia. Now, welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Dorby. Now, Nigel Farage has broken his silence regarding the ongoing civil war within Reform UK. Speaking about an hour ago, the Reform leader had this to say.
When we found out one of our MPs was facing these accusations, without prejudging anything, we decided to appoint an independent KC to have a look at the situation ourselves. Since that moment, things have got a little bit out of control. Look, there is a behavioural problem here. There has been a behavioural problem for some months. Outbursts, anger, that kind of thing. Frankly, I've tried to put it all to the back of my mind. We've all tried to put it to the back of our minds. And as I say, I'm not prejudging anything on these allegations of a bullying culture going on in his offices. But I put it to you, any party who had a senior figure that was facing those accusations would have to act in some way.
So Mr Farage breaks his silence. And I'm joined now in the studio to discuss this by Mike Tapp, the Labour MP for Dover and Deal, and the former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Towler. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Gawain, understandably, I'm going to start with you first tonight. Now, you know Nigel Farage, you've known him for many years. Yep. Rupert Lowe, likewise, you've known for many years. It's fair to say a lot of people expressing their discomfort, shall we say, about what has become a very public battle of words. Mr Farage has spoken back tonight, perhaps had to, considering the social media allegations flying about. What's your take on this most, how should you say, uncivil of civil wars?
It's certainly unseemly. I think all civil wars are uncivil, frankly. Basically, if you have dirty linen, and we've all got dirty linen, you generally wash it in private. And what seems to have happened in this new sort of everything hang out internet world, everything has to be done in public. And I wish that weren't the case. If there are investigations taking place, they should take place, and the results, we find out the results before we go through everything else. But, I mean, Nigel obviously has a good point, that if there are allegations being made, we've seen it with other parties. They brushed it under the carpet, and when it finally comes out, it's far, far worse. So, because then you have allegations of hiding claims, hiding things. So, to go out and say we must do a proper investigation, I can see the sense in that, because you're not trying to hide things, and that has been a problem for all political parties in the past. These things have been done underhand. I'm just very sad. There are millions of people out there looking to reform, to come and change the situation here, to improve matters in the country, and what they see is an unseemly spat. So I'm very disappointed. We've got hundreds of thousands of members. We've got people out campaigning every single day. I see them, I talk to them. They are a little bit disheartened. It doesn't stop them, interestingly. They're still going out there and doing the knocking on doors and so on and so forth. So, but it is disheartening, of course it is.
I want to ask you, before I come to you, Mr Tapp, I want to ask you about something else happened today, and that is Mike Amesbury, of course, the Runcorn Rocky, as he's been called. He said to the BBC, again, only a couple of hours ago, he intends to stand aside as soon as is possible. That, surely as night follows day, will entail a by-election coming up, a by-election that many people fancied Reform could have a good nibble at. They came second in the general election. Might this current contretemps amongst Reform MPs impact that?
It was always a massive hill to climb. I think Labour got 53% and Reform was second on 18. That's a huge hill. That's a mountain. So it's put a couple of yards on the top of that mountain, quite possibly. But I know that, we've got teams out there. They're working really hard. Let's see what happens. But it can't help.
Mike Tapp, Labour MPs over and deal. Let's bring you in now. Every political party has fallouts. Every political party has big personalities. Labour Party, good heavens, has had its fair share of ding-dongs over the years. What's your take on what's happened recently with Reform?
To be quite honest with you, Martin, it's not something that's occupied much of my time or thoughts. It's obviously open warfare from Reform, but I'm concentrated on what Keir's doing to try and keep this country safe when we're looking at Ukraine and Europe. I'm concentrated on the crime and policing bill that's being debated in Parliament today. That's really important.
And I'm on the committee bill. Don't start banging on about Ukraine.
I genuinely think this is important. I'm on the committee bill for the Immigration and Borders bill, where there's some important amendments to put in tomorrow to try and bring down those numbers. So that's what I'm focused on. Look, Reform can fight it out in public. If I have to have an opinion on it, then I'll go a bit further and say that, if he can't keep 5 MPs together, then how could he ever lead the country?
Or you could say that perhaps swift and decisive action to deal with an internal wrangle is also a good issue. We've seen in the past, for example, it took a long time to expel people from the Labour Party historically.
Well, look, Labour, when there's a disciplinary issue, has acted very quickly, particularly under Keir Starmer. And we've also got to remember how he came in as the leader of the opposition and completely turned around the Labour Party by cleaning it up from anti-Semitism that we had under Jeremy Corbyn. So that was very strong leadership, but that was all behind closed doors, and now he's leading as that statesman on the international stage, and we're in really delicate moments. So I have to be completely honest, that is what is occupying my thoughts at this time, not the Reform dramas that we're seeing.
OK, I'll ask you then about the impending, it seems, by-election in Runcorn. One of your previous men, Mike Amesbury, literally put a voter to the canvas. The Runcorn Rocky, they're calling him. To be fair to the Labour Party, he was swiftly expelled for that. Do you think that's damaged the Labour Party brand in Runcorn? It's not a good look to go around clumping voters, is it?
Violence should be nowhere near politics. He was dealt with swiftly, and it's the right thing that he is standing down, and look forward to the by-election, where I'm sure will return a very capable Labour MP.
And how by-elections, of course, are unique in as far as it's one event at a time. There's a lot of money goes into them, a lot of activists go into them. I'm assuming the Labour Party will throw the kitchen sink at this seat to try and keep it.
Given the timing, it may well be that this is in line with the May elections, the local elections. I'm not sure what they've got up there in honesty, but of course we'll throw assets at that to ensure that we do win and have a Labour MP there, because that's what the people there deserve.
Gawain Towler, there is this issue now of motivating a base that have taken a bit of a dink on the chin.
I've been talking to people all over the country over the last couple of days, and they're out working and campaigning as much as they were last week. They're a little bit, they are annoyed without doubt, but they're out doing it because they understand the party Reform is not just about 5 MPs. It's not just about Nigel. It's not just about Rupert. It's not just about anybody else. It's about the 219,000 members. It's about this spread across the country. It's about the millions who look to us to provide a voice for what currently has been ignored and ignored and ignored. And we look at what people call the uni party and say, well, there does need to be a change. And so it's a question of the people at the top coming together, talking it through, sorting it out, and then going back and representing those millions who need that representation, who are not represented by the main parties.
Do you think even as recently, perhaps, as Friday evening, there may have been an opportunity to break the bread, to sort this one out behind closed doors? But it's part of the problem. A lot of people have been saying the fact it's been done so publicly.
Well, obviously, a statement was made, a press release was sent out. It was done publicly. But equally, the timelines are not entirely clear. I do believe that the article that was the interview given with the Mail was precipitated by, and it looks like that was Rupert getting his sort of revenge in first, because he was aware of these investigations going on beforehand, obviously, because they'd gone to his office to talk. And so I don't know what the timelines are in perfection. I don't, and it just seemed to be he said, she said a bit.
Gawain, you've been around for a long time. You've seen dramas, Kerman, you've seen dramas. Is this just another one of those mini dramas, another blip?
Personally, yes, I think so.
And the truck will motor on?
I absolutely think so. Each time there's this sort of thing may crop up, and Farage and the political vehicle with which we work has got stronger each and every time. So am I concerned? Not really. I wish it weren't the case. Of course I do. And good people are annoyed. But I'd like to point out one of the interesting things is they've got the membership ticker, the infamous Reform membership ticker, showing that we'd overtaken the Tories and so on and so forth. It has shown a couple of hundred people have resigned over the weekend. But what's actually quite delightful is the fact that the party is transparent. It shows it. We know absolutely clearly that some people have left. But we don't try and hide that. I love that about the party, that they are being honest, they are being open. And that is, I think, tantamount to what the party's trying to do, the transparency, doing things differently.
Okay.
And this, though it's unedifying, is exactly that. It's trying to do things differently, being transparent.
Good. I think it was fair to say we had to mention this topic tonight. Of course, Mr Farage spoke out publicly there, so it would have been remiss of us not to address the issue. Mike Tapp, thank you very much. Gawain Taylor, thank you very much. Now, an astonishing story coming up. You'll not believe your eyes. And we're revealing some never-before-seen data, crime data, revealing the true scale of the migrant crime crisis gripping Great Britain. You will not believe which nationalities are driving the surge. A world league of shame for violent crime, sex, drugs, violence, theft. That's next with me, Farage. If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives. Again, down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tom Pickup, host of the Really 007 podcast. Hello, Tom. Thank you very much for joining. I've just been singing Live and Let Die to myself for some random reason. So what's going on here, then? Is Bond going to be changed forever? I mean, Barbara Broccoli was pretty hands-on and tough with what happened to that.
Yeah, you've got to think that this goes back to 1962 when it all started with Sean Connery and Dr. No. Her father, Cubby Broccoli, got the film rights and began the franchise and the movie character we all know as James Bond. So it's a big change. It was always going to come to an end eventually. Barbara took over pretty much when her father died, before GoldenEye, when Pierce Brosnan was the new Bond. But she's really had all the control with her half-brother, Michael G. Wilson, who's the other producer on Eon, since then, since 95, really. And they didn't cast Pierce Brosnan themselves. That was Cubby's casting. Their real casting was Daniel Craig. And I think now that chapter has come to an end, and whether you liked it or not, it had a very definite ending, maybe that's been part of the reason where they think they'd rather spend their time in retirement doing something else. It's time to pass it on. And they've got a ready-made partner already in Amazon.
Is it going to get a little bit woke, though, Tom?
I've no idea, but all I know is that Jeff Bezos obviously is head of Amazon. He's already put a tweet up or on X saying, "Who do you want as the new James Bond?"
Oh, okay.
So he's already including the fans, which I suppose is a good thing. Whether or not we'll have a say, we don't know. But I think what it'll be is what people want, what people on the outside see as James Bond, not necessarily super fans like me.
The People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Daubry. Now, just a few moments ago, got some breaking news for you. The Home Office confirmed that the man believed to be a Palestinian migrant known as Abu Wadai has been charged with an immigration offence after crossing the Channel over the weekend. He's understood to be a former key member of a militant group who has called for the slaughter of all Jews. And as you can see on your screens, posed with an AK-47 machine guns. And we'll continue to bring you all the latest on this story as it breaks. Charged now with an offence. And on an affiliated point, next, astonishing new data has laid bare the true extent to which migrants from certain communities commit crime in Britain. Between 2021 and 2023 alone, an astonishing 104,000 foreign criminals were convicted in England and Wales alone. And that includes over 38,000 violent, sexual, drug and theft offences. Now, foreign nationals were convicted of sex offences at a rate of 71% higher than Brits. The worst offenders, as you can see on your screen in general terms, Afghanistan, Eritrea, Namibia, Chad and Moldova. In total, 87 nationalities, 87, had a higher conviction rate for sex crimes than the British population. And what did the government do? Well, they handed out 557,000 long-term visas to those very same high-crime nationalities in 2024. It seems Britain's borders are wide open and criminals are walking straight in. Well, this astonishing data was brought to you by my next guest, and that's Rob Bates, the Research Director for the Centre for Migration Control. And I'm still with my panel. That's the Labour MP for Dover and Deal, Mike Tapp, and the former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Towler. Rob, astonishing data. It truly is hard to even get your head around, but let's try and do that. Let's start, if we can, with how did you get this data? This is the data the government doesn't want us to have. We have it in the Netherlands, we have it in Denmark, we have some of it in Germany. In Britain, they won't give it to us. How did you get it?
Yeah, so there has been an absolute data desert in this area for far too long, and think tanks such as my own at the Centre for Migration Control, GB News, politicians have all been clamouring for this information because it's what we need to have a proper holistic debate about whether the immigration system in the UK is working for the country. They used to publish these statistics. They published them up until the mid-teens. Unfortunately, they have subsequently dropped that publication data set. So we acquired this data via Freedom of Information requests to the Ministry of Justice and to HM tribunals and court systems. We have been in long-standing conversation with these individuals and these organisations, demanding the information and pushing for the information, and eventually they managed to cave at the end of January. The data set was a bit messy. It took a bit of tidying up, but we have finally managed to put it together and put it out there. And I think the figures do speak for themselves, really. 104,000 foreign national convictions, not foreign-born convictions, foreign national convictions in 3 years.
OK, let's now drill into some of the overall crime stats. We've got a quick chart to show you the overall crime data, violent crime data. This is across all types, and talk about who are the most prevalent foreign offenders we can see in that list there. This is total of all crimes. Talk us through the League of Shame.
Yeah, so we've got Albania, Moldova, Congo, Namibia, and then we've got other kind of sub-Saharan African and Middle Eastern countries making up the remainder of the top 25. I think it's also important to realise that for crimes such as violent offences, drug offences, sexual offences, the Home Office isn't really doing anything to filter out those nationalities which it knows are more likely to be committing these crimes when it comes to the issuance of visas. I think when it comes to sexual offences, 50,000 visas were awarded in 2024 alone to those nationalities with a conviction rate that's between 4 and 18 times higher than the British figure.
And on that precise note, let's call up now this astonishing graph. This is the sexual offences by nationality, the first of our breakdowns here. Look at that incredible data. The white figure at the bottom, the tiny white figure, that's the British nationals, and everything above that, as you can see, much more likely to commit sexual offences. Talk through that data, Rob Bates, from the top.
So that graph is only really the tip of the iceberg. There are actually 87 nationality groups in the UK that have a higher conviction rate for sexual offences than the UK. They were in total awarded around 500,000 visas in the last year. I think what it does show as well is that there's a real pattern in terms of the certain nationalities that are more likely to be committing these crimes. I think they would arguably be those that we would probably be suspecting are more likely to commit those crimes. But just to zoom out for a second, I think this data really reflects what a lot of people have known for a long time, is that mass migration, the experiment of mass migration, has been making our streets less safe. I think we're all feeling the loss of social capital in society. At the moment, we're seeing thefts go up, we're seeing violent crimes going up, we're seeing sexual crimes going up. And I think too few politicians have been prepared to point out what is driving this, or what is adding to a large proportion of this.
Fair point. And it was Afghans in that first chart. They're 22 times more likely to commit sex crimes than Brits. The second chart, let's get that on now. This is for drugs offences, Rob Bates. Now, anybody can tell you that the prevalence of criminality seems to be amongst Albanians, but the figures are simply astonishing. Your data, Rob Bates, shows us Albanians are an incredible 152 times more likely to be jailed, to commit drug offences as compared to Brits. Mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. I do think that those figures, probably with the Albania figure being as large as it is, does reflect the fact that we have seen in recent years a large number of Albanians coming across the Channel, coming into the UK illegally, and they've been coming in deliberately for the purpose of engaging in the drug trade. But nonetheless, it does really show a clear pattern that is taking place between certain national groups. And the point I really want to hammer here this evening is that the Home Office, until 2020, was taking account of this kind of information when it was processing visa applications. It had a red list of nationalities that it thought were more prone to be posing a risk to the British public. Since then, under pressure from a charity called the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants, it dropped that decision-making process. And since then, nationality and the proclivity of certain nationalities to commit crime hasn't been taken into account at all when it comes to processing visas. And the result is that we are seeing our streets becoming less safe.
And just one final graph before I bring my panel in, and that is for violent offences. And if we get that up, you can see topping the League of Shame there. This is for violent offences, I believe, is Congo. The Congolese nationals 11 times more likely to offend versus the British population. Astonishing figures. We've got a Home Office statement. Before I get to that, Rob Bates, I'd like to bring my panel in now. Gentlemen, these figures are incredible. They're shameful. And more to the point, they asked a huge question. I'll start with you, Mike Tapp. Why won't any government in Britain, successive governments, just publish the data, just tell us the truth? If we had this data, we could make sensible decisions about border control, about the visas we gave out, and about how we did something about it. Why do people like Rob Bates have to work by hook or by crook to publish the truth?
Well, firstly, let me just cover what we're doing around illegal migration and deportations. So that's gone up by 24% under the Labour Party. That's 19,000 deportations since we came into government. But that's taken a lot of hard work because we inherited open borders and a system at the Home Office that simply wasn't working. We're also looking at foreign offenders, and that deportation number has increased by 21% since we've come to government, so a lot of hard work going on there. We're also bringing in an amendment to our asylum bill tomorrow. Now, what that does is it makes it easier to track those who have committed any crimes before they're deported. So they'll be wearing tags, there'll be orders where they can't communicate with certain people or go to certain places. So we're working hard to, protect the public from people who are more likely to commit crimes. We're also looking at Article 8 around the private life within the ECHR. And ensures
that's the chicken nuggets. People are allowed to stay in Britain.
So there's been some silly
decisions. People can marry people who are dead.
And that's not political, but what we will be saying, and you'll see this over the next few weeks, is that does need to be narrowed. And, of course, we'll have some announcements there. On this specific data, if you don't mind me just commenting on that, that does miss out these really important factors around the sort of socio-economic, influences that causes people to commit crime.
Hold on.
And if you don't mind, one other
economic situation.
I only had the taxi journey on the way here to actually look at the report, but I did notice that there were 38,966 convictions that had unknown nationality. Yeah. And this report does assume that they are foreign. So there's a lot of assumptions being made here, and it's quite loaded.
Oh, no. If
and I'd have to look through it in detail to analyse it.
I mean,
so therefore they are foreign.
That they're unknown.
Like I said,
if they were British, we'd know, wouldn't
so
it?
like I said, it's a clear assumption, isn't it?
One at a time. You've had a lot of time, Mike.
Thank you.
Dwayne Towner.
OK, a couple of things. These numbers are horrific. They're horrendous. And 104,000 in the last 3 years?
3 years, 21 to 23.
That's 104,000 people who shouldn't be in this country. Period.
I agree completely.
Gone. A lot of them. They're here as foreign nationals. They break our law. They go. They come out of that dock. Instead of going to our prisons and costing our resources, they go straight to where they came from. End. No question. No. And once you do that, I don't know how many of these are repeat offences. There may be the same person doing many things.
I think you can answer that. This is the first offence logged, and there are multiple offences in there, right?
So in the same year, yes. So there will be a slight... these are convictions rather than individuals convicted, but the fact that there might be an individual coming into the UK and committing multiple offences for which they're committed...
It might boost these numbers, actually.
...is an even bigger problem. Right. It's an even bigger problem.
And they're exactly the sort of people that we're looking to deport and have been deported in higher numbers.
Isn't good enough.
Okay.
It just isn't good enough.
Can I just
Every
say,
single one of these crimes affects somebody in this country.
I completely
agree. The rapes affect somebody in this country.
Agree.
The violence affects somebody in this country.
Right. I completely agree. But this is the difference between opposition and saying things and getting things done. And Reform have got all these ideas that once you get into government, you notice that delivering takes a little longer. And, of course, we're working hard at this, but some of the ideas that we hear coming from Reform politicians are simply unworkable.
Don't you think, Mike Tabb, that deporting foreign rapists might get you, for example, in Dover, a bunch of votes from Labour voters?
Look, there's not one person in the Labour Party who would disagree with deporting.
I don't think that's true, because people have voted against any changes. And going back to the main point, one, we need the data. There's absolutely no reason why the National Office of Statistics is not releasing the data. There's no reason the Justice Department is not releasing this data. They used to collect it. Why don't they collect it now? Why? Why don't they collect it? Because they're frightened the British people would be angry at what's happening. The vast numbers of people arriving here, many of whom are criminals.
I think one of the issues with this sort of data is that people can misuse it.
Those nasty right-wing people. Those nasty right-wing people.
And what we see is people of certain ethnicities suffering abuse and racism because of unbalanced reports
British people
that aren't properly
suffering rape, attacks, violence and all the rest of it.
It doesn't have to be either or.
Okay.
You don't have to...
But no, it is...
This sort of either or argument just completely falls down.
Are you saying that the people in Denmark are uniquely better than the people of Britain, who treat people differently because they get the accurate data? You're saying that people in Sweden are in some way worse than the people of Britain because they get the accurate data. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. We have simply run out of time on that. An impassioned debate. Thank you all. Rob Bates, again, excellent data, impassioned comments. Thank you very much. Now, we do have a statement from the government, and it says this: we are committed to delivering justice for victims and safer streets for our communities. Any foreign nationals who commit heinous crimes should be in no doubt. Now, we will do everything to make sure that they are not free on Britain's streets, including removal from the UK at the earliest possible opportunity. And next, coming up next, the government is getting prisons ready in case... Coming up next, the RAF doesn't have enough pilots to deploy jets to Ukraine after their woke diversity drive. Guess what? If you say white working class men aren't welcome, they tend not to enlist. That's next on Farage.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Daubney. Should the Royal Air Force be renamed the Royal Woke Force because it's facing a pilot shortage after a diversity hiring scheme backfired? An official document has shown that the RAF's need for a higher number of pilots in training, and they're so short-staffed now that candidates who were previously rejected are being urged to reapply, as well as older applicants who have any relevant experience in flying-related roles. Doesn't that make you feel safe to be a Brit? Well, joining me now to discuss this is a former RAF officer, Lee Hannaford. Lee, welcome to the show. It's incredible, is it not, that we heard that white heterosexual men were banned from applying or told not to apply to the RAF, and suddenly we have a recruitment shortage. Who would have thought it?
Good evening. I think it's a great challenge that a couple of years ago the RAF decided to look at recruitment in a slightly different way when they were taking pilots on board, to try and rebalance, to be more diverse in the way that they took applicants in, which definitely persecuted some groups that were trying to apply. So the system was very, very simple. You applied to be an officer, you went through OESC, you did your aptitude tests, and you were scored. Those that scored highest were selected to be pilot. Those that didn't were selected for other branches. I think what happened was there was a misbalance or an imbalance at the time where some candidates may have been put above certain candidates who got a higher score.
I mean, do you think that anybody in the history of humanity cares about who saves them from being bombed? And as far as, that person's got the correct pronouns, or that person is gender fluid, or that person is an ethnic minority. Nobody cares. This should be about merit.
It should be all about merit. I mean, the armed forces is built purely on merit. I think, personally, a mistake was made. The Air Force started to recognise this, but by the time they'd recognised it, it was far too late. Group captain resigned, in principle, over the matter. And what you see now is the Air Force now having to come up with ways to fill gaps in recruitment that have been caused by, we'll call them single white males, looking at the Air Force and thinking, why should I apply? Am I going to be persecuted against? Am I going to get through? There's uncertainty. There's other things that I could be doing. The fact that it takes candidates so long now to get through the process is also another reason why they're looking at the Air Force and thinking, well, there are other careers that I could go into.
Absolutely right. And for example, if you like, diluting the entry criteria to get older applicants, those who may have been previously rejected, reapply. If it didn't make the cut last time, if you've got any experience in flying-related roles, great. Now, you once flew an EasyJet. Now here's a Phantom. It's like the whole thing seems to be the lunatics taking over the asylum. Woke targets, do you believe, are compromising even the safety of the nation?
So I will defend the Air Force a bit here. So the way that the aptitude system works, if you get over a certain score, you get told that you pass the aptitude to be a pilot. Unfortunately for you, there are other people that have got a higher aptitude score, so they've been selected. What it seems the Air Force are doing now is they're looking at those candidates that they didn't select, who have passed the aptitude score, so they passed the baseline score, but they're now reaching into the system to say, whilst we didn't think you were good enough first time round, we're now taking another look. This is also exacerbated by the fact that the equipment that we use, the Hawk T2, is also failing. So you've got two things that are going on. It's like a perfect storm. So you've got a pipeline problem where we're trying to get pilots into the system, but once they're in the system, we can't train them on the equipment that we bought. So the flying training provider is unable to put people on the platforms because they're broken, they're unserviceable. So that presents a sort of perfect challenge to the Air Force, with the government now looking at increasing the size of the Air Force, which is a good thing, bring more jets on board, more Typhoons. Where are the pilots coming from? It's great to have jets, it's great to have F-35s, Typhoons, but if there's no pilots to actually sit in them, they're just sat on the flight line, doing nothing.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane what's going on. Thank you very much for joining us, former RAF officer Lee Hannaford. Let's get back to my panel now. I'm still joined by Mike Tapp, Labour MP for Dover and Deal, and former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Towler. Mike, I'm going to come to you first. Your leader, Keir Starmer, is saying RAF jets must be in the skies above Ukraine. Who's going to fly them?
Well, look, we've obviously inherited a military that's been, cut to the bone, and we do need to rebuild that. And we're in, delicate times at the moment where we do need to have functioning military, including the RAF. And I'll be really clear, I don't care what gender or colour the person is who's flying the planes. It's got to always be the best, and I've absolutely no doubt that that's the RAF policy going forward.
Well, the RAF policy wasn't that recently, because they specifically were taken to court and lost on the fact they were discriminating against white men, who'd like it or lump it, those horrible far-right white men who historically have gone to war and died for Queen, King and country.
Yes, but I think there's no harm in encouraging groups of the society who haven't hitherto been straight to the RAF or straight to the military. That's a good thing. But the fact is they were marking people down for... That's the problem. You want white people, yes, but I don't mind. Have as many as possible. Encourage everybody to engage, to join. And the problem is they seem to be balancing it against those people who have traditionally been involved in military careers. And that's madness. But, I mean, this is not... There's no doubt this will happen under the Tories' watch. Absolutely, this happened under the Tories' watch. But we have been hollowing out our armed forces, and Mark, you'll know this from your previous career. We've been hollowing out our armed forces. We have overspent. We have spent the peace dividend of 1989 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. Every time there's options for change, it's options to reduce. And now we find ourselves in a naughty world. It was always naughty. It was always a naughty world, and we found ourselves perilously undefended.
Mike Tapp, you've served Queen and Country in the Army, of course. You were a brave member of the Armed Forces. Thank you for your service. Do you think that the Labour Party's attitude now, though, in terms of pursuing historical grievances, particularly around the Troubles, Jeremy Corbyn did that, and there's a feeling that this current government is doing the same thing. Why should people enrol for the army that Keir Starmer seems to want to send to Ukraine, or the RAF he wants to send, if in 10 years' time you might be hounded for historical wrongdoings?
Look, the military is a fantastic career, and I would certainly encourage young people to join. You get to, form lifelong friendships, you get to travel the world, there's fantastic sporting opportunities, but also you get to serve the country. And look, there's no doubt that the Labour Party respects veterans, I know, because I am one, and we're passing a law, or second reading of a law today, to criminalise climbing on some of the war memorials, so there's that deep respect there. But of course, as a soldier, you know, I've been into conflict zones. You are never above the law, and there's those rules of engagements that you have to ensure you stand by.
But I think we have a government that is ruled by lawyers as much as rule of law. I think the chasing of people from 40, 50 years ago for doing what they believe was the right thing then, there has been a culture through various, particularly organisations like Lead Day Lawyers, who have stuck in, and they've been backed by people like, I'm sorry to say, the current Attorney General, Lord Herman, who has supported the hounding of servicemen. And you've also got to remember, if you're teaching people in schools, and this is a Labour problem as much as it was a Tory problem, if you're teaching people at schools that this country is worthless, it is evil, its history is ghastly, why would anybody join? Why would anybody stand up and risk their lives? If they've been told that we're racist, our history is ghastly, everything about our society is awful, which is what essentially people are being brought up to believe, then I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all that people are reticent about joining up.
OK, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Gawain Taylor, thank you very much for your contributions tonight. And also, Mike Tout, thank you for joining me in the studio. Now, on the RAF story, we have a statement from the RAF, and it says this: we have sufficient pilots and aircrew to conduct all current operations and service the front line. Additionally, active management of the flying training system has reduced training times and the backlog of student aircrew in the training pipeline. This good progress has enabled us to reopen aircrew applications for serving personnel. Thank you very much to my panel this evening. Excellent contribution. Mike and Gawain, thank you. Now, coming up next, I'll have the heartbroken owners of that beautiful dog there, that pug Aussie. A pug who was stolen in a violent armed machete attack at their home last month. It's an astonishing story. That dog is still at large, and we need you, the great GBNews viewers at home, to help do your thing to track down this missing dog. I have Aussie's family on the show next with me, Martin Daubney, on Farage.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, it's actually rather unsettled across much of Europe with heavy rain and thunderstorm. This is all to do with an area of low pressure, so bringing spells of rain and some heavy and frequent downpours across much of Spain and into Italy. The best of the sunshine will be towards the far, far east across parts of Greece. Temperatures here not doing too bad at around 18 or 19 degrees. And we hold on to some heavy showers through the week as well. Temperatures up to 20 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Plenty of showers to come as we go through much of this week. Whilst there will be some sunshine breaking through, worth bearing in mind it is going to be markedly cooler than it has been recently. That's because we have some cold air coming in down behind a cold front that's gradually making its way southwards across the UK at the moment. That cold front's not bringing a huge amount of rain, but across southern parts overnight it is going to stay pretty cloudy, and there will be some outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the southwest. Further north, some clearer skies, but also a scattering of showers, particularly across parts of Scotland, maybe northeast England as well. Where we get the clearer skies, temperatures are going to take quite a drop, falling a little bit below freezing in some places, so a touch of frost is quite likely first thing for some places. Like I said, there will be some showers overnight, and these will continue into tomorrow morning across the northern parts in particular, and some of these showers could be falling as sleet or snow over modest higher ground of Scotland. A largely dry and bright start across Northern Ireland. Meanwhile, for northern England, a bit of a west-east split. Eastern parts seeing a bit more clouds, some showers, and again some sleet or snow here. Further west, it's looking brighter, but also across the bulk of the rest of England and Wales. Lots of fine weather to start the day once any lingering rain in the southwest quickly clears away. There are thereafter. And we do have a bit of a northeasterly wind, and it's in areas exposed to that wind where we're going to see the most frequent showers. So across parts of Scotland, down some North Sea coastal parts, and also perhaps Northern Ireland too. But most places having a decent amount of dry weather, but it is going to be markedly cooler than it has been recently. Temperatures only just about scraping into double figures at best. More showers to come as we go through Wednesday. Again, mostly in areas exposed to that northeasterly wind. Towards the west, a greater chance of staying largely dry, but even here a few showers are possible. Worth bearing in mind, a greater chance of seeing a bit of sleet or snow to some lower levels in the north, and some of the showers could be quite heavy. More showers through the rest of the week, but it does look drier by the weekend. Bye-bye.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
And welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Daubney. Now, an astonishing and moving story next. My next guests were the victims of an absolutely horrific and heartbreaking crime. Exactly 1 month ago, their home was broken into by machete-wielding thugs. Well, RAF officer Jason Shutt and his partner Sashi had £20,000 of cash and valuables taken from their property in Ruislip, West London, while Sashi was being held at Machete Point. Now, the armed gang also stole their beloved pug dog, Ozzy, you can see now on your screens. And the family said they aren't focused on getting the money, the jewellery or the watches back. They just want Ozzy back, who has survived cancer and requires regular medication return. They just want their beloved dog back. Well, join me now in this heartbreaking story are Ozzy's owners, Sashi Shutt, and her 13-year-old son, Harry Shutt. Welcome to the show, Sashi. Let's start with you. Incredible, distressing thing that happened to you a month ago. Talk us through that fateful morning.
So that morning I was on my way to work. I do part-time cleaning. I realised when I got on my way to work that I actually left my cleaning bag at home. So I returned home to walk down our path, and I found the front door and the windows wide open. Not assuming anyone would be in the house, you know, sometimes my partner comes back to let the dog out or he's forgotten something. Carried on my business, walked into the house, and as I entered the property, I could hear that upstairs there was footsteps and rumbling of noises from the upstairs. As protection, I work in A&E, and I took out some tough scissors. I followed myself through into the dining room area when I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. And at this point, they told me not to move. They had a machete around my neck, turned me and put me up against the bottom banisters. And while this was carrying on, the machete was still around my neck.
Oh, God.
While the other 1 or 2 people were carrying on their business. And then after about, it seemed like a lifetime, but was probably only a few minutes, they all left. At that point, I then found my phone and called 999. They responded within 3 to 4 minutes.
Are you okay?
No. So since the attack has happened, I haven't slept. I'm on sleeping tablets. I'm on medication through the day to calm me. I have panic attacks. I wake up in the night having nightmares. And due to all of this, we are relocating tomorrow. The military have been supporting us, and we're moving house tomorrow because I can't stay in that house anymore.
And many watching this would say, who can blame you? And you're obviously grateful to the military for acting swiftly.
Indeed, yes.
To assist. Let's now move on to, and I'm so sorry this has happened to you, and I'm so grateful you come on the show to share it. Thank you for being so brave. Harry, Let's talk to you about the dog. Ozzy, of course, so, you can get more jewellery, you can get more money, you can get watches back, but dogs, many people watching this show will know, are simply irreplaceable. Tell us about your beloved Ozzy.
Well, he was just like a teddy bear. He's like a live teddy bear. He was just so cuddly, and he was so kind. He was like a human, but obviously as a dog. He was just amazing, and yeah.
We can see that dog on the screens there now, and the dog is now missing, and you obviously dearly would love to get Ozzy back. What can people do to help? Is there any distinctive marks, anything that may help the public out there to assist you in this noble search?
Yeah, well, he's got a scar on his back leg. Obviously, he'll reply to his name, Ozzy, and yeah, that's about it. Really.
You can see on screen there, if you're watching at home, there is that distinctive mark. It looks like the back rear leg.
Yeah,
so
right.
the back right flank leg there, got that scar, beautiful pug. And I believe the local community have chipped in, they're trying their best to help you as well.
All over social media, they've been great, so
we've got that dog out there. Ozzy, it's heartbreaking. I mean, look, so cute, so beloved. Did the dog just bolt off at the traumatic moment, the noise, and the dog just took off?
When I arrived back and obviously everything was happening, I heard nothing from Ozzy. After the awful people left, I did call out for him, but there was no sign of him whatsoever. My assumption was at the beginning that maybe he'd just run off because he was scared. But now we've investigated, we feel that he probably was taken. But unfortunately, Ozzy is an older male pug. He's had cancer and he's neutered as well. So.
Thank you. We have a quick statement to read out from the Metropolitan Police, and it says this: the police have investigated a report of an aggravated burglary that happened in Ruislip on Monday, the 10th of February. Officers swiftly attended the scene and spoke to the victim. Detectives from the West Area's burglary and robbery team have since explored all lines of inquiry, but no arrests have been made. But we continue to appeal for any information which will enable us to revisit this investigation. An image of the family's dog that appeared to go missing during the incident has been circulated to Met officers in an effort to help relocate it. Any real information, call the police on 101. Thank you very much for coming in, Sashi and Harry Shutt. Best of British to find your dog. So Jacob Rees-Mogg, we don't have time for a handover, I'm afraid, because the dog took all the time up. Well, Jacob Rees-Mogg, State of the Nation is next. Anybody out there, if you can find missing Ozzy, get in touch. You make this family very, very happy. State of the Nation is up next. Have a great evening.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Plenty of showers to come as we go through much of this week. Whilst there will be some sunshine breaking through, worth bearing in mind it is going to be markedly cooler than it has been recently. That's because we have some cold air coming in down behind a cold front that's gradually making its way southwards across the UK at the moment. That cold front's not bringing a huge amount of rain, but across southern parts overnight it is going to stay pretty cloudy, and there will be some outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the southwest. Further north, some clearer skies, but also a scattering of showers, particularly across parts of Scotland, maybe northeast England as well. Where we get the clearer skies, temperatures are going to take quite a drop, falling a little bit below freezing in some places, so a touch of frost is quite likely first thing for some places. Like I said, there will be some showers overnight, and these will continue into tomorrow morning across the northern parts in particular, and some of these showers could be falling as sleet or snow over modest higher ground of Scotland. A largely dry and bright start across Northern Ireland. Meanwhile, for northern England, a bit of a west-east split. Eastern parts seeing a bit more clouds, some showers, and again some sleet or snow here. Further west, it's looking brighter, but also across the bulk of the rest of England and Wales. Lots of fine weather to start the day once any lingering rain in the southwest quickly clears away. Thereafter, and we do have a bit of a northeasterly wind, and it's in areas exposed to that wind where we're going to see the most frequent showers, so across parts of Scotland, down